Hi everybody and welcome to this first presentation where I'm going to cover principles 1 and 2 of the 13 principles of an effective salesperson. I like to call this first presentation, You Must Believe First. Here we're going to be talking about the strength of your belief in your product and in yourself. Because what you might not realize is what your objective is as a salesperson is to make them believe. The objective of any sales presentation is to make your potential customer believe that the product that you're selling will benefit their life enough to outweigh the costs that you're selling it at. I mean, do you, though, believe in your product enough to outweigh the costs? I mean, would you buy it? At the price that you're selling your product, would you buy it yourself? Because if you don't believe that the benefits of that product outweigh those costs, you're going to have a really hard time getting them to believe in it. And do you believe in your own ability to convey that belief to them? You see, if you don't believe in yourself or the product, it'll show. It'll show in your facial expressions, the body language, the tone of your voice, your choice of words. I mean, come on, if this person was selling you a product and this is how confident they looked in what they were doing, would you buy from them? Probably not. So you've got to learn to believe in yourself, believe in your ability to sell the product, and believe in your product enough to then be able to convey that belief with confidence and with the right body language and tone. And all of that comes from your deep-seated thoughts on it. So what do you need? What do you need to do? Well, principle 1 is believe in yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You need to have that confidence in your ability as a salesperson. And second, you need to believe in the product. Believe that it is worth spending their money on. Because if you don't believe it's worth spending that money on, you'll have a very difficult time convincing anyone else that it's worth spending. So we need to first talk about believing in yourself or building that confidence. Now, me telling you, okay, you need to be more confident, that's real helpful, isn't it? I mean, I think people have been telling me since high school that the answers to half of our life's problems is just be more confident. If you be more confident, you'd have an easier time in dating. If you just be more confident, you have an easier time in sales. If you just be more confident, it would fix all of your problems. That's wonderful, but no one ever seemed to tell me, how do you get more confident? I mean, if you're feeling insecure as a salesperson, going out there, presenting your product each day, it's kind of hard to just all of a sudden develop confidence overnight. Some people have innately, by the way that they've been raised over the course of their life, they have lots of confidence. But for the rest of us, we don't start out that confident. So you have to know what to do to build that confidence in yourself, so that way when you are doing your sales presentation, you are able to convey with confidence and assurity that they should buy your product. So what do? How do you build this confidence? Well, the thing is, the reason that you're not confident is because you're fearful. You have fear. And those fears can't just be ignored. There's a lot of people out there who try and put on false confidence. All they really do is ignore and pretend that they aren't afraid. And they think if they do that long enough, eventually they'll stop being afraid. I'm sure you knew lots of people in high school who were generally the mean popular kids. Because there's some nice popular kids, but you got those mean popular kids. Why were they like that? Why did they like to pick on other people? They acted like they were all confident, that they ran the school, but yet why did they feel the need to be mean to other people? Well, I can tell you, I've known those people, and they're not actually confident at all. They put on a false arrogance to make themselves seem confident, but deep down inside, they're hurting. And the reason why they're acting that way is because those fears that they've had, they've just buried them. They just shove them real deep down and just ignore them. And you cannot build confidence by ignoring your fears. So if you can't build confidence by just ignoring those fears and pushing them down deep down inside of you, what do you do then? Well, you got to face those fears. You have to deal with them, address them, and get them out of your system. And you got to replace them with positive thoughts. Now, let's start with that first step, okay? Realizing your fears and facing them. Because most of us have tons and tons of thoughts, fearful thoughts, negative thoughts, doubtful thoughts, millions of them going through our mind every single day. And we're not even aware of them. We don't even realize what's going on. And so since we aren't aware of them, there's not really anything you can do about it. So in order to face those fears, you have to know it first. You have to know that fear. What is it that you're afraid of? I had an exercise that I took part in at a training seminar where the presenter had us write down on a sheet of laminate, so clear paper, that you wrote down negative thoughts that you had. And then they wanted you to then pair up with someone else, and you were supposed to deliver your message, deliver your product to them while they're holding all these fears in your face, in between you and them. And it was interesting because as we did this exercise, there's a lot of people that they're like, wow, that was really hard. When I had, with all those fears right in front of my face, it made it difficult to communicate. For me, actually, it wasn't a problem at all. I was able to completely ignore that sheet of laminate. So I'm sitting there delivering it just as if it wasn't there. And I at first felt really proud of myself. I'm like, hey, look, it didn't bother me at all. But then I realized something. It didn't bother me at all, but it was also in front of the face of the person I was delivering my presentation to. They were also seeing all those doubts and fears. And so while I might have the great ability to ignore my fears, that doesn't help me because those fears and doubts are still out there to be seen in my body language, in my tone, in the words that I use by my potential customer. So your ability to ignore your fears doesn't help you at all. You need to address them, and you need to start to realize what they are. Because if you spent so many years ignoring them and just pretending they aren't there, you're not going to be any good at recognizing them and dealing with them. So you need to first know what you fear. Know what you fear so you can face it. So I've got a link here for a sheet that is a worksheet for you to help you figure out what it is that you fear. On this sheet of paper, there's a number of short statements followed by 3 dots saying continue on. They say things like, I am afraid, I worry, I'm overwhelmed, I feel sick when. And your job is once you've printed it out, once you're ready, put this on hold, put me on pause, and go fill this sheet out. Fill the whole page. So write a paragraph to finish each of those statements. And I want you to do this fairly quickly. So put a timer on for yourself for 5 minutes. Okay, if you really have a hard time, you could go up to 10, but I recommend trying to get it done in 5. Because the idea here is not to go into your conscious brain and think and dissect your fears. The objective here is what I like to call a word vomit. It's where you just put what's in your brain, just let it just flop out onto the paper. Because your subconscious brain is where the thoughts are. That's where all these real negative thoughts are hiding. And it's only as you're able to access that subconscious brain are you going to be able to get these out. Now, I want you to do them quickly. It's the same technique used by interrogators when they're trying to get someone to make sure their story is correct. They will ask questions in a very quick succession, making them answer very quickly and then do it repeated times to see if it changes. Because what they're trying to do is, by asking it quickly, you don't have time to think. You don't have time to formulate a story or change what you're going to say. So as you do this to yourself, push yourself to go as quickly as possible to fill in this sheet, finishing each of those statements. And what you're going to find is you're going to find negative thoughts and doubts and fears that you've been holding on to are going to come out onto the page. Okay, take 5 minutes, fill it out, and try and fill out that whole page. Put me on pause, go print that off, get to work filling it out. And when you've done filling it out, come back and listen to the rest of the presentation. So, you should have gone and done your brain inventory, as I call it. What did you find? Did you find any doubts or fears there that you didn't know? Now that you've identified these fears that are lying inside of you, do you think you just want to keep them around? I mean, to know that you're afraid of giving a sales presentation when you're a salesperson, not very helpful. And you can know that. You might have known that before. That doesn't really help you. The idea is to get rid of the fear, to do something about it. So you don't want to keep that fear around. You want to destroy them. You want those fears gone. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that piece of paper that you've done, that brain inventory. I want you to take that piece of paper. I want you to go find a trash can. And I want you to destroy it. I want you to rip it up, tear it up. And I want you to do it as violently as possible. You need to communicate to your mind, to your subconscious, that you don't want these thoughts in there anymore. Now, when we're trying to communicate with our subconscious mind, there's a couple different ways to do that. One is repetition. I recommend that you do this activity twice a day for a week. It's going to get you the repetition of your brain getting used to you observing and recognizing these fears. Second is intensity. You have those memories that something that only happened once, but there was a lot of intense emotion, and so you'll remember every detail of that day. You'll remember every detail. I remember the moment I first saw my wife in her wedding dress. I will remember that scene for the rest of my life because of the intensity of emotion I felt. You need to do the same thing here. You want to communicate to your brain, I don't want these thoughts anymore. You got to do it through intensity of emotion. So I want you to tear that up. I want you to rip it, stomp on it, scream at it, whatever you're going to do. But do it with intensity. Destroy this thought and communicate to your brain, I don't want these thoughts in there anymore. And as you do that repeatedly, the brain's going to get the hint. And it's going to be like, wow, apparently they don't want this thought in there. They're having this really negative reaction whenever we bring up this thought. We need to get this out because this is not helping us and we're freaking out every time it's brought up. Let's just get rid of this thought. And that's going to be when you start to see that real change. You're going to be amazed to see as you do this twice a day for a week. You're going to be amazed the things that come out. The comments made to you when you were young that have been affecting you and have been creating these feelings of self-doubt for years and decades. You're going to all of a sudden realize these things that have been going on in your subconscious brain without you knowing it. I did this when I really wanted to change. I did it 4 times a day for 2 weeks. And I can tell you, I was blown away by some of the thoughts that I was having that were negatively impacting my success. So now that you've cleared out those thoughts, you've recognized them, you're facing them, you're destroying them, you've got to understand, though, what happens to your brain after that. Once you've kicked those thoughts out, you've left an empty space in your brain. You've cleaned house, and there's empty locations there. And in the Bible, Jesus taught what happens when you expel evil from your life and don't fill it with good. He said, when an unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places. The spirit walks through dry places, not the man, seeking rest, and findeth none. And he saith, I will return unto my house from whence I came. And when he comes, he findeth it swept and garnished. The evil that was expelled out comes back and checks and finds that there's plenty of space. And then goeth he, and taketh him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. So I don't know what your beliefs are on evil spirits, but this principle is 100% true on negative thoughts in our minds. You see, when you do brain inventory and you send those thoughts out and you get them out of your head, you've just cleaned house and you leave an empty space there. And anyone who knows about keeping a house clean, empty spaces can be a real problem. I am a notorious stacker. If there's papers or anything that can be stacked, I will find a flat surface and I'll stack them on top of there. So having an empty space to stack things on, for me, is a bad situation. I can clean it up, but chances are those papers are going to find their way back to that space. Unless I fill it. Unless I put, say, a little frame with a picture there. Now that space is filled intentionally with positive things, and there's not room for me to stack my papers again. So now that you've cleaned out some of the fears that are inside of you, they'll come back. And if you don't fill that empty space, it can be worse for you than it was before. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to click on this link below, okay? Print it and fill it out. And here, on this sheet, what you're going to do is you're going to list out on one side the top 10 fears or negative thoughts that you have that are plaguing you. If you need some help, keep doing brain inventories and they'll help you come up with more. But do the top 10 negative thoughts. And then on the other side of the sheet, I want you to write a positive thought that is the opposite of that negative. If the negative thought is I'm not a good salesman, I want the positive thought to be I'm an amazing salesman. And then I want you to do something more. We don't want to just do one-for-one battle. Now, if you're fighting against this enemy of negative thoughts, you don't want to just fight it on even ground. You want to dominate it. So you need to have twice as many positives for every negative. So let's take again that instance. Let's say that you got, I'm not a very good salesman. Or I'm a bad salesman. A little stronger. Then you need to say, I'm an amazing salesman and I am charismatic. Now, I'm sure that just listening to that for you, it sounds kind of cheesy. And you know what? It is. It causes this emotion inside. There's a little bit of an emotion, kind of like beforehand when we were destroying the negative thoughts and we were trying to create that negative emotion. Well, now we're trying to create emotion again. So I want you got to use the principles of repetition and intensity to get it into your subconscious brain as you write these positive declarations. So you're going to write the top 10 negative thoughts, and then I want you to take the top 5 and write a positive opposite and a second thought, and then make sure it has an and then another positive for you. Make it something that makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, because that's going to make your brain remember it. And then I want you to take these and I want you to declare them. So this isn't just I'm an amazing salesman and I'm charismatic. No, you should be yelling it out. My favorite one for these actually is I'd put a sheet with these in my car. And so when I was driving, I'm all by myself, and I'm at a stoplight, I would scream them out, because in my car, I felt like I could. And then at first, I felt really uncomfortable. And then I started to feel more comfortable. And then eventually got to where I could say those statements and feel good about them. And at that point, your brain accepts it and says, yes, this is true. See, this way, we're getting out those negative thoughts through repetition, doing that twice a day for a week, intensity of emotion, tearing it up, ripping it up, screaming at it. But then we're doing the exact same thing on replacing these negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Repetition. Do these declarations at least once a day. I would say twice a day, just like you're doing your brain inventory. Maybe do it right after your brain inventory. So you do these positive declarations twice a day and do them with the intensity that is needed to get them into your mind. At that point, you will have expelled this negative, expelled these doubts, filled them with positive thoughts and positive affirmations. And that's when you're going to find self-empowerment. That's when you're going to find that confidence. So that way, the next time that You need to sell your product. Next time that you need to talk to someone, go up to that door, make that phone call. You can do it with confidence in yourself and your ability to appropriately communicate with this possible customer the benefits of buying your product. Okay, so now that you've started to develop that confidence in yourself, you know to get rid of those negative thoughts, empty that out, and then fill that space with positive thoughts, with positive affirmations. Now you need to help build confidence in your product. Believe that the product you're offering can change their lives forever, that it could save their life, their family, their marriage, their sanity, whatever it is. You need to believe in the power of your product to create positive change in people's lives. So how do you build that confidence in your product? Maybe it's something you've never used. Maybe it's something that for you, maybe it hasn't been something that actually you would use. Let's say, for instance, you're selling caskets, but you haven't died, and no one in your family is dying right now. So you have no use for a casket. So you can't really, have a lot of personal experience with your product saying, oh, yes, this is a great casket. I've used it myself, and it was great. Okay? You can't do that. So how do you then build that confidence in your product? Well, you need to understand that whenever you make a decision, what you do is you do a 1-second cost-benefit analysis. Your brain in that moment does a bunch of calculations and says, okay, here's the benefits I'll get out of doing this thing. Here's what it'll cost me to do this thing. Should I do it? When you're deciding to get up in the morning, you open your eyes and your brain says, okay, if I get out of bed right now, I'll be able to get an early start, maybe be able to take a shower, make some real food instead of just grabbing toast on the way out. And that's about it. What's the cost that it would cost me? I don't get to sleep more. My bed's so comfy and I have to get up and it's cold out and then I'd be shivering and then I actually have to start my day. So you know what? That costs way too much. I'm going to go back to bed. That is the decision that is made every morning. If you have someone who won't get out of bed, that's what's going on in their head. Okay? And until you change that, they're never going to get out of bed. So what you have to decide is if the benefits of your product are worth the cost. Okay? In this cost-benefit analysis, you yourself have to first decide if the benefit of your product is the cost. Now, you notice I said benefits, the benefit of your product. You need to understand the difference between features and benefits, okay? This is where many salesmen or salespeople make their first mistake. They know the features of their product. They don't necessarily know the benefits of their product. Let me use a smartphone as an example. What are the features that you get with buying a smartphone? Well, you get text messaging, you get the app store, you get the phone calls, you get the video streaming maybe, music streaming. Those are some of the different things that you get. In apps, I'm going to say that you're using the apps for organization, calendar, things like that. Your email, stuff like that too. Okay, well then if those are the features, then what are the benefits? What's a benefit then if that's a feature? Well, the benefits are staying connected with family and friends. See, the features of text messaging and phone calls together create a benefit of staying connected with family and friends. The video streaming, games through the App Store and all that is entertainment at your fingertips whenever you want it. And the apps is that you'll stay organized and never miss another deadline. You see, in the features, it's what it does. The benefits are what it will do for them. Benefits are how this feature will affect their life. It's putting it in their life and their situation. So how do you help the customer see the benefits? Now that I've identified what benefits are, how do you help the customer see those benefits? Well, do the cost-benefit analysis for them. Do it ahead of time. You yourself, as the salesperson, should know what the costs are of your product to your consumer and what are the benefits that it will give to the consumer. You yourself should know that ahead of time, so then you know what are the different benefits that you can use to pitch. If you know all the ways your product could benefit them and all the costs that it could cost them, then you'll be able to help show them exactly why they should buy. And you're going to be able to anticipate their needs and their concerns. So here's a tool to help you do that. Click on the link below and fill out the form for the product or service that you are wanting to sell or provide to them. Click on this link. It's going to take you to a sheet where you're going to fill out, for my product, here's all the costs, and here are all the benefits. Here's all the ways in which it can negatively affect my customer, all the different things they have to give in order to get the product, to make the product work. And here's all the benefits to them that can occur through having this product. Now, as they're doing this cost-benefit scale, your objective is to prove to yourself, first off, that the benefits of your product outweigh the costs. So, do you want a cost-benefit scale that looks like A, where the costs equal the benefits? Do you want a cost-benefit scale where the costs outweigh the benefits? Or do you want one that looks like this, to where the benefits just slightly outweigh the costs? Okay? Benefits are just a little bit bigger, enough to tip the scales towards the benefit side. Which one of those three do you want? The correct answer is none of them. You don't want it to look like any of those scales. You want it to look like this. You want the benefits of your product to so far outweigh the costs. You want it to be a no-brainer. Huge, huge benefits. And the cost comparatively is tiny. It doesn't matter what you're selling. You could be selling cars for $20,000. You want the benefits that you're pitching to them to make that $20,000 look like chunk change. Okay? So you want the benefits to so outweigh the cost that it is a no-brainer. In order to do that, you need your list of benefits to be much, much longer than your list of costs. So take a look at the worksheet that you should have done. If you haven't done it yet, pause this, go do it, and then come back. Okay, take that worksheet, keep working on it till you found every single cost you can think of. That does include the cost of the stuff that I could have bought if I don't buy this. Say that $20,000 car. There's a lot of things I could do with $20,000 if I didn't buy this car. But even with that list of costs, you need twice as many benefits as you can find costs. Twice as many. You want that side of benefits to be so much heavier than the cost side that you'd have to be stupid to buy. And then you want to take that list of benefits of buying your product and the cost of not buying your product and read it every single day. Put it in your cubicle if you have one. The more you read it, the more you will believe it and the easier time you will have selling. We talked about previously that if you want to get something into your subconscious brain, repetition is one of the main ways. And so you need to repeatedly sell yourself on your product. That the benefits for it are this big, cost for it are this small. The more and more that you can get that into your brain, the more likely you are to believe it. And the more you believe it, the more conviction you can have when selling the product to a potential customer. Now that you've cleared out your fears, okay, doing your brain inventory, you've given yourself a reason to believe in yourself. You've done your declarations, found out those 5 negative thoughts, figured out positive thoughts to counteract them with a second thought added on to each statement for good measure. Again, we want double. We want double on the side of positives versus negatives. And you know why your product can make a difference in their lives? Well, once you've got that, once you believe in it that strongly, then a no from them is unacceptable. How on earth could you not want this? No one on earth should not want this product. A lot of people hate salesmen. They hate salesmen. They have a bad reputation because what? They're pushy, and I don't want the product anyway. Well, at this point, when you believe in it like this, you're not just a salesperson, you are a product evangelist. You won't let people suffer just because they're scared to make a decision. You're not going to let them suffer by not buying your product, because by not buying your product, they are condemning themselves to suffering. And you never do that to them. Everyone needs this product. They just don't know it yet. See, those sound like corny, cheesy lines, but when you really believe that, then the power of the conviction you can have in selling your product is going to make it so easy for you. You might have a difficult time starting sales conversations. Maybe you're an outside salesperson and you're scared to go up to that door, scared to knock on the person's door. Well, guess what? When you feel that conviction as a product evangelist, not just as a salesperson, you're not going to be scared to walk up to that door. You're going to be running up to that door and screaming at them, "Hey, you really need to hear about this." No, I understand. You said you're not interested. Yeah, I get that. But you don't realize what I have for you here. You need to listen to this. I'm coming in. You're listening to this because guess what? I'm going to change your life. And when you can do that with conviction, people are going to sit up and listen. And it's going to change forever the way that you approach sales.